The world doesn't reward honesty, it rewards strategy. You can be loyal, talented, and hardworking, and still get replaced by someone smarter at playing the game. If you don't understand power, you will become a victim of it. This video will teach you the psychological weapons that protect you from manipulation, betrayal, and silent competition. Look around you. The people at the very top, the ones pulling the strings and making the rules, they don't operate by the fairy tales we were taught in childhood. They operate in the shadows of human nature. They understand a fundamental truth that most people are too afraid to accept. The world never plays fair. No matter how honest your intentions are, someone out there is calculating how to use you. No matter how skilled you become, someone less qualified but more strategic is plotting to take your spot. That is the harsh, unfiltered reality. But here is the secret. Those who truly understand this reality don't just survive, they rule. They possess a subtle, invisible power that everyone feels but few can name. We call it dark intelligence. Dark intelligence isn't born in comfort. It is forged in the fires of betrayal, humiliation, and defeat. When the average person gets broken by these experiences, they stay broken. But you build an impenetrable fortress from that pain. This is the kind of intelligence that listens when others speak, watches when others ignore, stays completely quiet when others panic, and strikes only at the absolute perfect moment. Most of society is out here playing checkers, reacting to whatever is right in front of them. You are about to learn how to play grandmaster-level chess. But before we expose these tactics, let me make one thing crystal clear. This knowledge is dangerous. It is meant for your protection, not for senseless destruction. Use it to build an armor around yourself, to defend against those who wish you harm, and to outmaneuver the manipulators. The goal here is to master the game, not to become the villain. So if you are ready to stop being a pawn, drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Let's unlock the psychological traits that powerful people pray you never figure out. Number 1, calculated opacity. You are never completely clear about your intentions. You show the world exactly what is necessary and not a single drop more. When people only know half of your story, human psychology forces them to fill in the blanks with their own imagination. And here is the genius part, that imagination controls them. Machiavelli said it best. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Think about the most fascinating, powerful people you have ever encountered. They never overshare. They leave intentional gaps in their stories. They answer intrusive questions with counter-questions. They give a subtle smile when you expect a frantic explanation. Understand this. This isn't about outright lying. This is about absolute strategic communication. In most everyday conversations, when someone asks a question, the average person feels this overwhelming, desperate obligation to give a complete answer. They spill their motivations, their deepest fears, their upcoming plans. They think they are building trust, but in reality, they are bleeding power. They are handing over the ammunition that will eventually be used against them. Smart people understand that mystery creates influence. When you withhold the full picture, people become intensely curious. That curiosity breeds interest. Interest breeds respect, and respect solidifies into influence. Imagine someone asks about your weekend plans. The transparent, powerless answer is, "Oh, I'm just staying home, maybe watching some movies." It's forgettable. It's weak. Instead, look them in the eye and say, "I have something important to take care of." Then simply change the subject. The first answer makes you entirely predictable. The second answer makes you magnetic. Your information is your currency. Stop spending it all at once. When you practice calculated opacity, your words carry profound weight because they are rare. You maintain absolute control over your narrative. Number 2, the adaptive persona. You are not the same person with everyone, and you shouldn't be. You must ruthlessly adjust your personality based on exactly who is standing in front of you. People will think they know you inside and out, but the reality is they only know the exact version of you that you designed for them to see. Machiavelli warned that a leader must be flexible, appearing merciful, faithful, and upright, while knowing exactly how to pivot when the situation demands it. Amateurs call this being fake. Professionals call it being effective. You already do this. Subconsciously, you don't speak to your boss the way you speak to your best friend. The adaptive persona simply takes this natural human instinct and weaponizes it into an intentional strategy. Every single person you meet operates on different frequencies, different values, and different emotional triggers. If you use a one-size-fits-all approach, you will fail. The strategically smart person studies their target. If they are analytical, you feed them cold, hard data. If they are emotional, you mirror their feelings. You become like water. Water takes the shape of the cup, the bottle, or the ocean, but it never, ever loses its core property. It remains water. You adapt your presentation to conquer the situation, but your core principles remain untouched behind the mask. The mistake most people make is believing they need to be perfectly authentic in the exact same way with everyone they meet. But raw authenticity does not mean being one-dimensional. When you master the adaptive persona, you become someone who can seamlessly integrate into any room, negotiate with any personality, and extract exactly what you need. You are not forcing them to understand you. You are hijacking their communication style to make them feel understood. But remember the warning: never adapt so much that you lose yourself. The strongest individuals are like diamonds. They have many sharp facets, but they are still one unbreakable stone. This psychological flexibility leads directly to the core of unbreakable power. Number 3. The principle of detachment. You must refuse to be a slave to any relationship, any fleeting emotion, or any external opinion. Listen carefully. What you are not afraid to lose cannot control you. What cannot bind you cannot manipulate you. Machiavelli noted that since love and fear can hardly exist together, it is far safer to be feared than loved. In the modern world, detachment is perhaps the most misunderstood weapon in your arsenal. People mistakenly think it means being cold, entirely numb, or uncaring. It doesn't. It means being absolutely, undeniably free. Look at the masses. They are paralyzed and controlled entirely by their attachments. They are terrified to lose their job, so they swallow disrespect and accept poor treatment. They are terrified to lose a toxic relationship, so they constantly compromise their boundaries. They are desperate for societal approval, so they parrot what people want to hear instead of executing what actually needs to be done. Fear of loss makes you weak. It paints a target on your back. Freedom from that fear makes you untouchable. Picture a cinematic negotiation room. High contrast, shadows stretching across the table. Two people are sitting across from each other. Person A is desperate. They need this deal to survive. They have mentally spent the money, planned their future around it, and their anxiety is leaking into every word. Person B wants the deal, but they have built other options. They are perfectly willing to stand up, shake hands, and walk away into the dark if the terms are not overwhelmingly in their favor. Who holds the leverage? Who controls the room? Person B, without a doubt. Because they are completely detached from the specific outcome, they negotiate from an impenetrable fortress of strength. Detachment grants you cold, hard clarity. When you are not emotionally bleeding over the need to be right, you see the chessboard perfectly. The ultimate paradox of power is this: the less you desperately need something, the more likely it is to fall into your hands. Confident people aren't confident because they always win. They are confident because they know they will survive and thrive even if everything burns down around them. Start practicing this in the shadows. Stop fighting to win every petty argument. Stop needing everyone in the room to like you. The moment people sense that you cannot be easily controlled by loss, their respect for you will skyrocket. And once you stop reacting to everything, you unlock the ability to use the heaviest weapon of all. Number 4, silent leverage. You do not apply pressure directly, you wait. When people inevitably make mistakes and expose their vulnerabilities, your quiet, unshakable presence becomes the most intimidating force in the room. Machiavelli stated, Never was anything great achieved without danger. Yet, most amateurs believe that power must be loud. They think it's about shouting, making aggressive demands, and violently forcing their will on others. That is amateur hour. Real power whispers. Silent leverage is the dark art of manifesting absolute influence without uttering a single syllable. It is about positioning yourself so strategically that your mere presence alters the gravity of the room. Instead of barking orders, you manipulate the environment so people naturally act in your favor. Instead of begging for authority, you make yourself the invisible linchpin. Let's break down exactly how you execute this. In conversations, silent leverage is the mastery of the pause. Most people are terrified of dead air. The silence makes their skin crawl, so they panic and fill it with words. Words that usually reveal far more than they ever intended. When you embrace the silence, you become the director of the conversation. The next time someone throws a difficult, aggressive question at you, do not snap back immediately. Pause. Look right through them. Let that heavy, suffocating silence stretch for 3, 4, 5 seconds. Then deliver your answer calmly. Watch how the sheer weight of your delayed response crushes their momentum. In professional warfare, silent leverage means becoming the person who solves critical problems without demanding applause. You do not announce your value, you demonstrate it until the system cannot function without you. The secret ingredient here is brutal patience. You are not hunting for instant gratification. You are planting strategic seeds in the dark and waiting for the harvest. You delay your gratification, knowing that your consistent, quiet actions are building an empire of influence. Soon, people will seek your advice without you offering it. They will crave your approval without you demanding it. You become the quiet architect shaping their reality, and they won't even realize you are holding the blueprint. But you can only hold that blueprint if you deeply understand the people you are dealing with. This brings us to the fifth weapon. Number 5, psychological echo. You do not just listen to people. You reflect their deepest, darkest needs and paralyzing fears right back into their eyes. They will genuinely believe you are speaking their language, but in reality, you are systematically gaining absolute understanding and supreme influence over them. Machiavelli noted that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see, but few can truly feel. Psychological echo is the dangerous art of becoming a flawless mirror. It is not about cheap deception. It is about strategic empathy. Understand this fundamental truth. People do not buy products, services, or even ideas. They buy the fulfillment of their deepest desires and the temporary relief from their worst nightmares. When you can pinpoint and reflect those exact emotional states back to them, you become completely irresistible. Look at the masses. They are horrific at this. They listen merely to formulate their next response. You must listen to dissect. When someone is talking to you about their failing relationship or their stressful job, they are not just handing you data. They are handing you the master key to their psyche. They are revealing how they desperately want to be seen, what they secretly value, and what keeps them awake at night in a cold sweat. Every single human being on this planet is constantly asking 3 silent, desperate questions. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? When your words and actions whisper yes to all 3, you create an unbreakable psychological tether. Let me show you how this weapon is fired. Someone complains to you, "I absolutely hate my job." The average, powerless person immediately offers unsolicited logical advice. You should update your resume. But if you are using psychological echo, you listen to the emotional bleeding underneath the words. You look at them and say, "It sounds like you are being completely starved of the appreciation you actually deserve." And you're ready for a battlefield that actually challenges you. Boom. The difference is staggering. Instead of throwing cheap solutions at them, you validate their internal reality. They instantly feel deeply understood, which inevitably breeds fierce trust. And once you hold that trust, you can frame any of your own ideas, suggestions, or commands in a way that perfectly aligns with their psychological profile. If they crave security, you frame your strategy as the ultimate safe haven. If they crave recognition, you frame your request as their path to glory. You don't change your core message, you change the emotional packaging. This psychological mastery requires you to step out of the fairy tale and into reality. Number 6, ambiguous morality. Intelligence, so pay close attention. Ambiguous morality does not mean you are a sociopath with no compass. It does not mean you wake up looking to destroy innocent people. It means you understand that the real world is incredibly complex and violently unforgiving. Pure, spotless moral clarity is a luxury reserved for those who have never had to make a decision with actual, bleeding consequences. Sometimes doing the nice thing in the short term triggers a catastrophic disaster in the long term. Imagine you are leading an organization and you catch a team member consistently lying to clients. The nice, socially acceptable thing to do is to give them a second, third or fourth chance, provide more training, protect their feelings. But what about the honest team members who are suffering because of them? What about the clients being manipulated? Someone operating with ambiguous morality understands that protecting the majority requires the stomach to execute the minority. You make the incredibly harsh, cold decision to cut that toxic person out immediately. It looks ruthless to the weak, but it is pragmatic ethics to the strong. Or consider a friend trapped in a highly destructive relationship. The kind approach is to smile, nod, and offer blind support. Ambiguous morality dictates that true loyalty sometimes requires shattering their illusion and telling them the brutal, agonizing truth, even if they hate you for it temporarily. You stop asking, "What action makes me look like a sweet, good person?" and you start asking, "What action physically forces the best possible outcome?" You must become entirely comfortable with making the right, difficult decision, even if the crowd boos you for it. And while you navigate these gray areas, you must fiercely guard your own perimeter. Number 7, controlled exposure. You do not reveal everything about yourself. The less people know, the more they assume, and assumptions lead directly to the fatal mistakes that make your strategy effortless. Machiavelli warned that men are so simple of mind that a deceitful person will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived. We live in a sickening era of oversharing. Everyone is desperately broadcasting their personal lives, their trauma, and their every waking thought onto the internet for cheap validation. The person who practices controlled exposure in this environment is a ghost, and ghosts are terrifyingly powerful. Controlled exposure is the calculated restriction of your personal information. It is the deep understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Psychologically, humans are desperate to solve puzzles. When we encounter something incomplete, our brains obsessively try to fill in the blanks. This is the curiosity gap. When you selectively withhold information, you weaponize this gap. Think about the most captivating, dominant figures in history or in your own life. They never lay all their cards on the table. You cannot unknow what is already known. So you must err on the side of giving them starving rations of your reality. But controlled exposure goes far beyond just locking your jaw. It is about the lethal timing of your reveals. Dropping a specific, high-level capability on day one makes you look desperate for validation. Dropping that exact same capability 6 months later, precisely when the company is burning and needs it most, makes you a godsend. And in the digital wasteland, where every stray thought is permanently tattooed online, the truly powerful curate their digital footprint like a museum exhibit. They understand that their digital persona is a calculated, permanent piece of a much larger, darker strategy. This absolute control over your environment leads us to the final and most devastating weapon. Number 8, outcome obsession. You are not here to win petty arguments. You are not here to prove a point to people who do not matter. You are here to get results. And people who focus purely on the outcome never, ever waste their breath on unnecessary games. Machiavelli coldly stated that the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. This is the ultimate dividing line between the dreamers and the dominators, the amateurs and the professionals. The masses are desperately distracted. They want to look good more than they want to win. They want to feel morally superior during the process more than they want to actually achieve the goal. Outcome obsession violently cuts through this noise. When you possess this trait, your internal dialogue fundamentally shifts. You stop asking, "How can I prove I am right?" And you start demanding, "What exact sequence of actions will force the result I want?" Watch two people argue. The amateur treats it like a high school debate, desperate to catch the other person in a contradiction, bleeding energy just to satisfy their fragile ego. The outcome-obsessed individual steps back and asks, "What do I actually want from this person?" If the goal is to change their behavior, aggressively proving them wrong will only make them dig their heels in deeper. The strategic move might be to let them think they won the argument, while quietly maneuvering them into doing exactly what you wanted all along. You gladly sacrifice the cheap thrill of being right for the permanent power of being effective. In the corporate arena, outcome obsession means you stop equating exhaustion with success. Amateurs confuse frantic activity with achievement. They think bleeding over a keyboard for 12 hours automatically commands respect. The outcome-obsessed practitioner operates with strategic laziness. They ruthlessly identify the 20% of actions that dictate 80% of the results, and they ignore the rest. They are not trying to be the hardest worker in the room. They are determined to be the most violently effective. If a strategy stops working, they don't cry over the sunk cost. They don't marry their methods, they marry their goals. If the front door is locked, they don't keep banging on it, they quietly slip in through the window. You have just been handed the 8 psychological weapons of dark intelligence. But let me leave you with a final, chilling reality. Knowledge without brutal application is worse than ignorance. It is wasted potential. Do not try to master all 8 of these traits by tomorrow morning. Pick one, just one. For the next 7 days, inject it into your daily interactions. Watch how the people around you suddenly change their posture. Watch how your own anxiety evaporates when you replace emotional reactivity with cold, strategic calculation. But remember the warning from the beginning. This power carries a heavy, dark gravity. Use these insights to build an impenetrable wall around yourself and your loved ones, not to terrorize the innocent. The world is crawling with manipulators, narcissists, and predators. The true purpose of dark intelligence is not to join them, but to become completely immune to them. Not to gain cheap power over the weak, but to gain absolute, unshakable power over yourself and your circumstances. The most dangerous person in any room is the one with nothing to lose. But the most untouchable person in any room is the one who understands the darkest corners of human psychology and uses it to bend reality to their will. Which one are you going to be? If this completely changed the way you view power, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss another strategy. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these 8 traits are you weaponizing first? Until next time, stay strategic, stay untouchable, and never let them see you coming.